Happy birthday, Noah Fifita.
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and we are here in Phoenix, Arizona, Kevin, not in Chicago, Illinois anymore. Ready to rock, ready to talk some Arizona Wildcats, athletics, news, and notes. All kinds of stuff to talk about today. We're going to be giving you our record predictions. But, Kevin, I missed you, my guy. How are we doing?
Doing good, doing great on a Monday morning. We're going to talk about at the end of the show your little vacation. I have some questions for you in regards to your PTO setup and what you got going on here at PHNX. But most importantly, I am excited to talk a little bit of Arizona Wildcats football fall camp media day. That was a mouthful there. That kicks off tomorrow. Damon, you and I will be there, boots on the ground in Tucson tomorrow, talking to coaches, talking to players, kind of getting a feel for one last time in a big atmosphere what these players and coaches are feeling and thinking heading into 2025. We're going to talk about that today. As you already alluded to, we're going to give our official record predictions as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm also hyped to talk a little bit of women's basketball here at the tail end of the show because Becky Burke is already building her 2026 class, and it's starting off pretty well. So, yeah, welcome into the show. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm excited to be here. And things are, dare I say, starting to cool down in the state of Arizona, the Freedom State. So, I mean, in general, I think we've reached the peak, and I think now we can expect to be on the slow decline into the fall. We're entering fall is my point.
If the mentality is it can only get better from here,
Correct. It can't get worse is my point.
Yeah,
we've reached the peak.
We are in the dead peak of the summer right now. It is certainly not cooling down.
We just gotta survive. We just gotta last.
Yeah, it can only go up from here. That's a fact. And by up, I mean the temperature goes down. But I don't know if I agree with that general description there, Kevin, but we are excited to pop down to Tucson tomorrow to cover the Arizona Football Media Day. We'll kind of be just like a larger version of the Big 12 Media Days with more access to even the position coaches and the players as well. Should be pretty fun to get down there, Kevin, and shake some hands and talk to some Arizona players and coaches.
Yeah, no, I'm also excited to see what Genesis Smith is pulling up in. We know the fashion king himself is not a stranger to a fit. So, I mean, he threw one for Media Day in Frisco, and that's Frisco. Will he throw one in Tucson?
I think that they're just going to be wearing like practice stuff is my guess. You don't think so?
I mean, I don't know if I didn't know if they were going to pull up in some other stuff and then change into that and then whatever it was. I talked to, maybe it was you in the moment, or maybe it actually was some of the players I was talking to about how, like, you would think that they would have them come out flip-flopped. Like, they would have them come out in their suit and tie first. This is now in Frisco I'm talking about. And then change into their, because there were some players that came out like in their like full pads and full everything, and then they would get like all sweaty, and then they had to change in their suit. And I was like, I feel kind of bad for some of these players, not in that way where it's like you get all sweaty especially if you're a bigger dude like a lineman, you get all sweaty talking to all these cameras in your full pads, and you got to change into a suit. So yeah, Damon, Media Day time of year means football's almost here. So
that's why the Oklahoma State guys were just ripping like some Wranglers and some cowboy boots, right? Like they didn't make it too overcomplicated. They said, what would I wear to a country bar in Stillwater, Oklahoma? That's exactly what I'm going to wear to Media Day. So I guess that's kind of the way to work around that whole situation. But anybody in particular you're excited to talk to? Maybe someone that we didn't see at Big 12 Media Day that at Arizona Football Media Day will get a little bit more access to, Kevin.
Yeah, we can go through the whole list of attendees here shortly. But I mean, there's one name that instantly stuck out to me, and that was running back Ismail Mahdi. I'm extremely excited to see what he has to say in regards to entering the Big 12, in regards to playing for Arizona, the challenge that he faces stepping up into a bigger conference for a team that needs a bit of a bounce back season and needs production from his position. So very interested to see what his mindset is at. That was the one name that stood out to me first and foremost when I looked at this list. What about you, Damon?
Yeah, no, certainly. That's going to be a fun one. Joe Salave'a, I know that's kind of been a white whale for this podcast that we've kind of wanted to bring on for a while. So it'll be good to maybe get to talk to him real quick, maybe ask a question or two that we've been dying to get to know, and hopefully potentially build that relationship a little bit, as well as, keeping it on the subject of assistant coaches. I wonder if anyone's going to talk to Bobby Wade or ask Bobby Wade about this whole Steve Smith situation from the offseason in regards to his evaluation of T-Mac and kind of going after T-Mac, the prospect. Steve Smith was a lot. Obviously, it kind of ironically transfolded in the way that T-Mac ended up going to Steve Smith's team and is, maybe potentially going to break Steve Smith's franchise records, which would be a hilarious way for that story to end and unfold. But, Steve Smith, our guy Steve Smith, he went after our guy Bobby Wade for kind of no reason, just for basically saying, like, if you think that if that's your evaluation of T-Mac, maybe you need to watch a little bit more film. And he kind of took it to a personal level and made it about their football careers, which really didn't have anything to do with the conversation at hand. It'll be interesting to see if that topic gets brought up, at least from my perspective, tomorrow, because it's, to my knowledge, the first time that Bobby Wade will be speaking to any media since that has all transfolded.
I think it would be the first or second time. Yeah, it wouldn't be. He hasn't done a lot of media since then. Also, I mean, you know how I feel about the Steve Smith thing. I think Agent 89 was playing a little bit of double agent for the Carolina Panthers, trying to hurt Tedero McMillan's draft
maybe
stock.
You've said that during Justin Spears episodes, because I don't remember that tape.
Maybe I did
before.
say it during a Spears episode, but yeah, that was like kind of I said it in jest, because I really do feel like Steve Smith likely actually holds those opinions, and especially once you take it to a more personal level with Bobby Wade and talking about the careers that each of you guys have had, it does feel like you're truly standing on business with your take there, Damon. But I will say that I kind of got those vibes a little bit from Steve Smith, because there's no way that, I mean, I didn't play receiver at any level, nonetheless the NFL level, nonetheless a franchise great, right, like a Steve Smith. But I feel like there's no one that can watch T-Mac's tape and not see the high level, high caliber receiver that you and I and Bobby Wade and all the rest of the people that watch and have interacted with T-Mac see it, right? So that's why I was like, there's no way, this has to be bait for engagement, right? This has to be like some sort of double agent trying to diminish T-Mac so that we can actually make sure we go get T-Mac. And yeah, he might break my record, but he's going to do it for this team, and that's what matters most. But yeah, once he took it to that personal level, I was like, damn, my theory, one, is kind of falling apart, and two, why is that his actual evaluation if that is the case? That was a puzzling one, and I am interested to see if that is kind of died down, or if someone's going to ask him about it. Maybe it could be you, Damon. Spark that fire.
Maybe I will. But I will say that, if you didn't catch it this morning, we tweeted out from our PHNX_Wildcats account. Give it a follow. Bryce Young and T-Mac are starting to find that connection early on in training camp. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited for football in general. I'm excited for college football. But I'm also excited to go watch what Tedero McMillan and what Jonas Savaiinaea and what Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt do in the NFL next year. I don't know if you've heard regarding Krosky-Merritt, Kevin, but like, he's supposedly, like, people are saying like he could maybe push himself into earning like starting snaps late in the season if things break his way. And I think that would really just go to show how massive that loss was last season if he finds a way to carve out a role for himself in year one for a team that has playoff aspirations, for an offense that was one of the better offenses in the NFL last season with Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. Like, if he can play on that offense as a rookie, I really like, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that cost this team a bowl game last season, that one subtraction from this roster. And yeah, it'll be awesome to see. I think Jonas Savaiinaea is, going to start from day one for the Miami Dolphins. And I've heard good things so far from camp there, and T-Mac. I mean, I'm excited for that. I think he's going to be a star, man, from the moment that he's on the field. Like, there's no reason that guy needs to acclimate to the NFL. And I know we've gone a little bit off topic here, but it's going to be exciting to to watch, those kind of training camp stories unfold here for Arizona Wildcats football players as well. But yeah, I can't wait to see if anyone asks Bobby Wade about that, and maybe I will be the guy. Who knows?
Michael here in the chat. Oh, well, let's start with this. Michael here says he's going to see T-Mac live in Green Bay, booked for Panthers versus Pack in November. That's
Electric.
A great venue to see it at, and especially seeing T-Mac for the first time in the NFL live. That
My
does
guy
sound
Michael
electric.
just loves sports, man. He just loves ball. He's
One of
going
us.
He's going to Omaha, right? Or maybe not. No, it wasn't Omaha, but he traveled back to Tucson for some of those later series Arizona baseball games. Just a ball knower,
ball lover. And then also a question asker says, genuinely, how much stock do y'all put on team camp practices? I feel like it means everything and nothing at the same time. I personally, I feel like you take all that stuff, with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Considering this is not the end all be all. This is not going 100% against, like live competition.
Yeah.
But I do think when you're evaluating like younger players, right? I do think you can gauge like maybe athletically, maybe technically where they are in relation to some of their peers, right? And you can kind of get a vibe for, oh, T-Mac looks like right at home next to the Adam Thielen, Hunter Renfrows, the veterans. Like you can kind of get a gauge for that. I don't think you can really get a gauge for like, oh, he's about to go dominate the NFL next year because he made 2 catches in, fall camp. But I do think you can get an idea of like how NFL ready is this talent heading into the season.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Was this question geared towards college or NFL more so? You think
I took
NFL?
it in a T-Mac context, but maybe he was talking about college context, which, yeah.
They're different for me, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
yeah.
I think when you're practicing for college in particular in this kind of lead up to the season, and I don't know what you necessarily call it, even though I was involved in it for 3 seasons. It's like fall camp. I don't know. It always starts in July, so it's hard to call it like fall camp.
It's technically fall camp according to the email we got, but I went through the same struggle today when I was doing the title for the show. I'm like, it's really not fall. It's like end of summer.
Yeah.
It's like summer camp.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says NFL here, but just to round out my point, I think that you're seeing a lot of your team play against your own team. So there's totally a combination of like, does this defense stink? Is this offense really good? Or vice versa, right? Like you don't know what you're watching necessarily. If the D line's dominating, like does that bode well for Arizona's defensive line next season? Or does it actually mean that Arizona's offensive line has, not been able to take that step forward after struggling last year? So that's where I think for college, it's a lot different. For the NFL, those guys are all NFL football players. If T-Mac's going out there and just looks like a star the entire time, I feel pretty confident in saying that that's what a star looks like. The disparity between the top and bottom talents in college football is so much different than it is in the NFL. And if T-Mac's, going up against guys that were also drafted and looking really good against them, I put a lot of stock into it, honestly. But I think the joint practices you put even more stock into because you're going up against, an opponent who also is fighting for a roster spot, fighting for opportunity, and is going to treat it like it's life or death, right? Because this is the National Football League. These are the best of the best. So if he's able to go to that Packers joint practice and look like a stud, like I put a ton of stock into it, honestly.
Yeah, and the topic of like college camps and how much, weight you put into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost feel like you should, going into these like college end of summer, fall camps, whatever you want to call them, like you're pretty much looking for like how in shape is this team, how like, damn, I don't want the Suns have ruined this word, but like how aligned, how connected is this locker room? Like, is there a
Suns
plan?
have ruined a lot of things, man.
Oh man, so many things. Sorry, Gerald, but yeah, no, like how connected.
He had to cover the team for the last.
That's why I'm saying sorry, man. Like, man, that's tough. Anyway, I'm sure KD is responding to this show right now. I was gonna say that I feel like you're going in there looking for more like on the surface, what can I see kind of things. Like, is this team in shape? Is an Ismail Mahdi like looking like he's in mid-season form? Like, how is the connection between Seth Doege and Fifita look on the sideline?
Yeah, like
more of the intangible things, the surface level stuff that because you're not going to be able to see much from in terms of college. Because we've talked to coaches, whether it be at Big 12 Media Day or whatnot, they don't really even want to show off most of their guys until it's live action game time because they don't want to get extra film out on their guys in the transfer era. You never know what could happen preseason. So, I don't think you can put too much into the college camp stuff. It's more about getting into the mind and of the players and the coaches and seeing what the mindset is going into the year. But like you said, and like I said earlier, I do think you can put a little bit more weight into the NFL, especially the joint practices. I think like team on team stuff, like I said, I take with a grain of salt. You're more so looking for like level of play more so than anything. But those joint practices, like when DeAndre Hopkins broke that brother's ankles, and I don't know, that was the whole thing. But
D'Angelo Hall.
Yes, D'Angelo Hall. Yeah, that was that's an all-time clip.
That is an all-time clip. But
that's your guy, boy. Crazy.
We are gearing up for fall camp for Arizona football as well. And as we talked about, we're going to be talking to a lot of Arizona players and coaches tomorrow. Another, group that, we kind of divulged from our Bobby Wade discussion, but another, I guess position group really that I'm excited to talk to is Bobby Wade's position group. I want to talk to as many of the receivers as they'll give us. I mean, I know we got Chris Hudson and Chris Hunter here on the sheet, but I just want to know more about this room and the dynamic of this room and really this rotation, right? Because it feels like there's going to be like almost a 6-7 man rotation of guys getting pretty close to even snaps all across the board, which is such a breath of fresh air from last season and just kind of how that all went down with this wide receiver core in particular, how bad they were. So it's going to be hopefully a real breath of fresh air and just like totally turning this group on its head, going from, so top heavy and just almost nothing underneath to a good amount of depth, but who's going to step up and really be that guy when it's needed.
And I love that you've ended your point with that, the idea of how last year was so top heavy and there just wasn't any support underneath T-Mac to help out the offense.
Yeah.
I know we spoke to Chris Hunter at Spring Showcase situation, our show out there. If you didn't see it, go check it out. But I'm interested to see like his mindset coming into this season, specifically because he was on last year's team. You know what I mean? And I think like he's probably hearing everybody, including you and I, say that last year was T-Mac and a bunch of nothing else.
Yeah, true.
And he's probably sitting there thinking like, okay, you guys are excited to see me play this year, but you realize I was on the roster last year as well, correct? So I was a part of. So I'm interested to see like his mental mindset, how much he's excited to show his growth, like what areas of the game he's worked on the most over the summer, what he expects to show is different in his game as opposed to last year, because we all watched Chris Hunter last year, and obviously if this is our takeaway, and this is no disrespect to Chris Hunter, but like there was nothing like. There was a couple moments, but over the course of the year, nothing truly notable about him as a prospect, right? As a high level talent.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see where his growth has been, where his focus has been this offseason, and if he feels, I mean, like a lot of the players on this team, a chip on his shoulder about it.
I think it's a great point, Kevin, because Chris Hunter was the team's second leading receiver last season with 323 receiving yards in a grand total of 12 games. So quick maths on that. That is 26.9 receiving yards per game is your second leading receiver. I think that it's fair to say that there really wasn't much else in this receiving room, but I also think that what you're saying is fair. Like if you're in Chris Hunter's position, saying like, oh, you're excited to watch me play, but you're also kind of demeaning what happened last season.
You forgot that I played last year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what we saw from Chris Hunter was a guy that when he started getting more opportunity, he started kind of coming onto the scene a little bit more and proving that he was at least one of the more competent pass catchers that we had outside of T-Mac. And yeah, it wasn't all that great still, but after the BYU game, 30, 26, 102, 65, 47, 17. So, I mean, like he got better kind of in that second half of the season where I think you saw him become a lot more reliable. I don't know if he's that guy. I think he's one of the leaders of the room. I don't know if he'll be the guy that steps up and is like, oh, I'm wide receiver one. I think that I'm thinking more along the Chris Hudson line, honestly, for that. And I think even maybe like a Trey Spivey, what's his ceiling? You know what I mean? Luke Wysong, can he kind of, get better from what he did last season? Because last season, I think he was, pretty much the bulk of that New Mexico production from a receiving standpoint, because it's not like Devin Dampier was really pushing the ball downfield all that much. Last season, though, for this receiving core, right under Chris Hunter, you have Conley as the next leading receiver. You have Kean Burnett, who battled injuries with 18 catches as the fourth leading receiver. You have Jeremiah Patterson as number 5. And Jeremiah Patterson doesn't really figure to get much playing time, I wouldn't think, going into this next season. So it's a completely different room. I think that aspect of Chris Hunter is a really interesting one, and something that we'll probably have to ask him about, Kevin. Like, what's it like hearing from people that the receiving core was so bad last season, really? And you're a part of it, but people also factor you into being a big piece of this receiving core. Like, how do you deal with that kind of the difference in opinion there, and feeling like you have to get so much better from last season to next? So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear. And I think Chris Hunter is, after talking with him at the spring showcase, like, feels like he has, he's a very interesting guy. I'll really be interested to hear what he has to say.
And plus, one more thing on the Chris Hunter side of things. You talked about Trey Spivey, and I think Trey Spivey is a player that I am truly excited to see what he looks like the last week of the season. Right, I'm excited to see the growth that he can experience from week 1 to the end of the year against ASU, because I almost feel like he's going to have, and I don't know if the stats are going to be a 1-to-1, but walk with me a little bit here. I feel like Trey Spivey being on the roster is benefiting a ton from Chris Hunter also being on the roster, because I could see Trey Spivey having a production-wise kind of a similar, chart to last year's Chris Hunter production, where it starts out pretty slow. He has to kind of show his skills, and then by the end of the year, you're looking around like, oh wow, Trey Spivey has become one of our most dangerous pass catchers in this offense.
Yeah,
I think I could totally see that, and I think Chris Hunter,
he's still pretty young.
Precisely, and I think Chris Hunter being a guy that could help keep his head level during all that and make sure he's working on the right things. I think Chris Hunter is going to play a huge role, even like you said earlier, even if it's not in the 1,200 yards receiving and 10 whatevers, he's going to be a leader in that room. And I think that his presence on last year's team and the lack of production that the overall room had outside of Tedderone McMillan, I think is only going to help him lead this upcoming year's team on the sideline and on the field as well. So yeah, I'm one of the people saying that last year's receiver room was T-Mac and a bunch of not a whole lot else to be dangerous with, but I am excited for the growth of Chris Hunter because of the way he finished last season. He did show a lot of promise entering this year, and I think that's why people are excited to talk about and watch Chris Hunter in 2025.
Yeah, I think that there's two receiving options really from that group, right, that you look at and think to yourself that you can probably build off something there. And I think, the first one is Kean Burnett, who started off the season pretty well, had that huge Utah game, right, which was, I think, week 4 or 5.
That great catch, too, in the back of the end zone,
unbelievable catch. Dot from my guy. But at the same time, it didn't – he got the injury, and he didn't really do much the rest of the season. He was obviously coveted by other schools. He went to Kansas, which figures to be a decent team this year. But wanted to come back here, play for the school that, he started it at, played for the school that his dad went to, play for the school that, his quarterback since high school is still the quarterback of. And also Seth Doege, the whole Seth Doege factor. We've talked about it tons of times on here. Like, Seth Doege recruited him to get him to commit to USC in the first place before he flipped to Arizona. There's already a relationship there. I think Kean Burnett could be a lot better from last year to this year if he stays healthy in particular. I just think that I trust Seth Doege and Josh Miller more to find ways to utilize him properly and to really have more of an identity on offense. And then on top of that, I think Chris Hunter is the other guy. He ended the season so strongly. Once he got more opportunity, he looked better and better. He was a walk-on. He earned, a scholarship. He's earned that opportunity. And I think that we're going to see, a much better version of Chris Hunter. I think the stat line will be better just because I think that when you look at last year's stats, like T-Mac had 1,300 yards and, everybody else had 1,600 yards outside of T-Mac. So there's going to be a lot more targets to go around, right? But I also think that, I don't know, am I crazy? I feel like this passing game, is probably going to have, I think for sure better stats.
Yes.
But will it have more yards? Because they couldn't run the football last year.
I would say.
Do you think Noah Fifita gets over 3,000 yards in next season?
How many do you have last year again?
He had 2,958. He had 2,869 the year before in obviously the 9 games or so that he played.
I would say yes. I think that the balance that the offense is going to have this upcoming year is going to help
raise the level.
Yeah, raise the level and raise the production, more importantly, to this conversation of the passing game, right? I think
that would be so huge, I think, for this team. If the run game can make the passing game better, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think by any stretch it'll be more efficient, but I don't know if better is or definitely better. I'm sorry. I don't know if like the counting stats will show it. If the counting stats can get better with the run game.
I mean, look, the offense is going to be dramatically more versatile and diverse than it was in 2024.
Yeah.
And I think Noah Fifita's kind of been inching up to that 3K mark in his career, as you just alluded to. And I feel like with the proper offensive coordinator and the proper connection to his receivers, which we feel like he's going to have this upcoming year, I feel like he reaches that 3K mark to answer your question, Damon.
Yeah. What do you think about Michael's comment here about 4 guys going over 500 yards this season? Do you think we could have more, less than that? What's your initial reaction?
I think we'd have to break it down. Like, who would they be, right? I would think Keon Burnett is one of those.
If Keon Burnett does it, I think 5 players could do it.
Because I just feel like Keon Burnett is, me personally, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like Keon Burnett is going to play a bigger role than I think people are. I'm not saying that they're like doubting him, but I'm saying I think he's going to play a more prominent role in the offense as a pass catcher than people are thinking preseason. And I think, not like in a negative way, but I think it is going to take some reps from the receivers as well. I just think he's solid at that position. He's got experience, and he's coming back to this program. I don't think he comes back unless he's going to play a prominent role in the Doege offense, right? I think that, and you already alluded to it. This is a guy that Doege knows well. This is a guy that Doege believes in his skill set and his talent. I do think Keon Burnett is going to play a pretty prominent role in next year's offense. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think he's going to look awesome. I kind of like, so Michael here says Wysong, Spivey, Hunter are locks, I think. 4th is a toss-up. I think if you put Burnett as that 4th, I think we're cooking with gas.
I don't think that. I think Chris Hudson is going to finish with the most. So I think that you can't leave him off that list, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there was what was that? 20, almost 3,000 passing yards last season. So if you really, if you have 4 guys over 500 yards, that's 2,000 right there. And then the remaining of the roster can build up, I guess, that remaining 1,000 yards or so. I think that it makes sense for 4 to kind of be about that sweet spot, especially with injuries. You're going to have to, people are going to get hurt, but you didn't even mention Nunu Watley. We haven't talked about him yet.
The basketball player himself. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't.
We'll talk about that at the end of the show, but continue your point.
Let's do it. I mean, I think that this receiving room is really interesting because and then you also have Justin Spears who's talked up Brandon Phelps throughout the offseason.
Yeah. And
said Brandon Phelps could play a decent role on one of those outside spots as one of the bigger receivers on this roster. It's a really interesting group, man. I think Chris Hudson gets it for sure. I think Nunu Watley gets it for sure. I think Luke Wysong gets it for sure. I think those are my 3 locks.
I was actually going to say, like, when you were explaining your bit about, I think you put Hudson in this list that Michael constructed. I think you probably, if we're doing preseason predictions, I think you subtract Spivey from the list.
Yeah,
I put Hudson into it.
I think Trey Spivey's just a little bit too
raw, right?
Yeah, raw is, I think, the perfect word of saying it. He has so much potential, hit or miss. Like, is he going to be? Not to say that he can't be anything in the future if he doesn't have a good season this year. I think that he absolutely still could be. Maybe it's just not quite his time yet, right? But I think that there's a chance that he's still not ready because he had 160 yards or whatever for Kansas State last season. Like he wasn't contributing at a super high level. Maybe it's not his time yet, right? So, but I also think there's a world where Trey Spivey might be like the number 1 guy, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe he's just physically more dominant than everybody because he's 6'4" and he's the only guy on the roster who really provides that these days. So you never know. I think that Trey Spivey is going to be one of the more interesting players on the team to watch for me. But like I said, I think those are my 3 locks: Chris Hudson, Luke Wysong, and Nunu Watley. I also think Chris Hunter probably gets it, and that would be my 4th. But then that's where I said I think if Keon Burnett gets it, that's 5. That's over 4. That's my 5 for sure. And then I also have Trey Spivey, who I think might get lower than that, but I still think could have a pretty damn good season as well. Plus, I think Ismail Mahdi should figure to be a much, much better receiving back than Conley was last season, and Quincy Craig as well, which it feels like every time I look at an Arizona football video that they put out or picture or something, I see Quincy Craig in it catching a pass out of the backfield. It feels like every time. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, and I love that you mentioned, like, you kind of went down the full list there of, like, this guy could end up in this club. This guy could also end up in this club. You go down the wide receiver room. and this is what I was alluding to earlier, it feels like this room is so damn versatile. Like, it feels like Doege truly has so many different tools to play with that it's my point with what I'm getting at here is it's really incredibly hard this season with Arizona football to predict statistical stuff in terms of receivers.
Yeah.
Because day one, honestly, you don't even know what the hierarchy is in the room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what the result of moving into like a new conference for some of these players would be, or moving up a level, or
that's what makes this so fun, right?
It is. It is.
Me or both of you or both of us or you, we're gonna look like idiots somehow from having this conversation because there are so many mouths to feed in this offense. But can we talk about how great of a job that Brent Brennan and Seth Doege and Noah Fifita have done building that pass catching weaponry, right? Because after last season, you would have thought that going into this offseason that no one would have wanted to play for Arizona football. No one would want to play for this offense, right? And somehow we're sitting here, Kevin, like a month out talking about like, man, they really just have so many pass catching options. It's hard to even predict what the stat lines are going to be. That's wild to think about, in my opinion.
It is. And I think like, I think it's that portion of the retool, the rebuild where your options are also open. It's a blank canvas, right? Nothing has been painted on the canvas truly yet for this season. There's a whole new roster of guys, not much carryover from last year's disaster. And I feel like the optimism is there. Like when you were talking about all these different pass catchers, I was smiling ear to ear and I was thinking to myself like, oh, it's truly fall camp time because we're 0-0 and I'm convincing myself that we're going to be awesome again. You know what I mean?
I told you that like a month and a half ago, bro. I was like, I think they did it. I think I bought back in.
No, yeah. But like you said, I think that is a credit to Brent Brennan and a credit to the staff, a credit to Noah Fifita for regardless of the outcome of the first couple weeks of the season, unless there's some sort of crazy negative outcome to the first couple of games. They do deserve credit for rebuilding this roster in the way that they have. Yeah. Considering the context in which the team was sitting at the end of last year, the fan optimism was probably at like 2%.
I'd say negative
percentages. Okay, we're working with negative percentages because like people were saying, fire Brennan, fire this person, fire that person, ship out the whole staff, get in a whole new staff. We want no one from last year's roster or staff on this team.
Like that.
And to have Brent Brennan shift the narrative from how quickly can we get him out of town to has he done enough to secure a year 3 and like. And what is year 2 going to look like because of the work he's done in summer of year 1? If it's a credit to him for keeping his head down and working is what it is. Yeah. Through all the noise, whether it saves his job, whether he's, whether he doesn't make a bowl this year and loses his job, whatever it is, he does deserve credit for the summer of work that he has put in. Because I think a lot of coaches would have probably folded and not have had nearly as good of a summer as Brent Brennan has had in his position. Because you could have just rested on your laurels and said, well, yeah, I was, doing a lot of kissing butt when I got here, trying to keep people in the locker room. And it wasn't really like he could have made excuses as his exit interview was happening. But he was like, no, we're going to retain these players. We're going to retool. We're going to rebuild. We're going to attack it again in 2025. And to his credit, I was doubting him. I was like, I don't know what this Joker's talking about. Yeah. He's got no idea what and hey.
What is blood waffling about?
He's on to nothing. Who let him cook nothing? Yeah.
But who let bro cook? 100 emoji, fire emoji.
But he actually did cook, right? And we're
not
went
way better than I think almost anybody possibly could have expected it that isn't in that building.
Yeah, and we're not saying that he brought in like a bunch of like, top of the line, 5-star here, 4-star there, like crazy talent. Yeah. But to be able to bring in any viable talent at all after the season that you had last year, after the showing that you had last year, to be able to bring in talent that, like a Trey Spivey, who has incredibly high potential, right? Like a Luke Weissong, who has really high potential as well. Like an Ismail Mahdi, who could have probably went anywhere, right? But chose Arizona and Brent Brennan. I think it's a credit to the offseason that he's had. And it's pretty much our last chance to give him any offseason credit before kickoff happens. And we ain't looking to give no offseason credit once the season starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, as far as this offseason has gone, like we said, it's gone about as good as you could have possibly imagined. And I don't think really, most Arizona fans, 99.99% of them, we're not really expecting anything. And to Brent Brennan and their staff's credit, they did retain most of the players. They did, as they said, want the players that didn't want to be here to leave. And we saw that. And then they brought in, a decent amount of replacements, and stuff to feel excited about, I think. And I'm really excited to watch this offense in particular next year. But I also think that Michael's comment that he puts here is pretty apt as well. It's a great comparison. I think our receiving core is very similar to this, where it's like, is anyone really over the top, gonna do what T-Mac did? Absolutely not. But there's a lot of, Jaden Reeds and Matthew Goldens and just like a bunch of dudes who are going to put up good stats. And it's going to be a fun group top to bottom where, any given game, someone could pop off.
And you know what? The competition is also going to be there. The competition's going to be there too, right? That is exactly what you're alluding to.
Totally.
Right? When you know that anyone in this room can, lock in and have the game of their life and take over your spot, it makes you want to work harder, right? And I don't think that, that was really the case last year. Obviously, it was an incredibly competitive locker room last year. Players have spoken about how competitive T-Mac was and how he really drove that competition in the wide receiver room. But if the talent levels are so far gapped, the competition can only be so worthy, right? And I think that the similarity in talent level between the receivers this year is going to increase competition and probably increase the level of all of those receivers because they're fighting for the same jobs. You know what I mean? And no one really has, from the outside looking in, a cemented role at the top of the receiver room. And so to your point, anyone can lock in, anyone can get that role there, Damon.
But it also makes it where, other opponents don't necessarily know what to expect, right? True. Because, if you can throw 7 different guys at a defense and, any single one of them could be the leading receiver on a given day, if it's successful, if it's working, that can be scary. That can be extremely scary because from a game planning standpoint, that's almost impossible. So, hopefully that's the way things are going. If Seth Doege is what me and you think he can be, what it feels like the players have bought into in regards to him, and even the other, coaches on staff have bought into, because it feels like he's just kind of the man. Like, I don't know. I think that, you're looking at a really, really fun offense, really fun group next year. And we have Uncle Ben here in the chat who says that, Luke has loved every single minute since he stepped foot on campus. And it's because of Coach Brennan and his staff and the players. And it feels like everyone's really on the same page as far as we can tell. And we're excited to speak to as many coaches and players as we can tomorrow. But Kevin, we are going to have to get into a break here. After the break, we're going to get into our record predictions, what we think is going to go down in 2025 for Arizona football. We'll do that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod.
It's the ad break, and that means it is time to talk Circle K, America's thirst stop, and dare I say, the very best gas station here in the Freedom State of Arizona. If you need
1 second, I have to cut you off. I got dropped off by my Uber at a Portillo's, and then I had to take that Portillo's and go to my hotel. I was a little bit further away. What do I see when I get dropped off and have to walk a couple blocks? A Circle K right there in the middle of the city of Chicago.
Like an oasis in the desert.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful stuff.
When you need a Circle K most, they are almost always there for you, unless you're like in Antarctica or something for some odd reason. Circle K will be there for you. Now, if you join that inner circle and you're not already in it, what are you doing? You can join the inner circle for free today and get 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. That is an unbelievable deal. After that, you get 3 cents off per gallon. After that, you get 5 cents off per gallon. That's every day. That's not on special days like Inner Circle Fuel Days, where you can get up to like 50 cents off a gallon. I've seen that before. Recently, it was a 40 cent off per gallon. So enough of that. You've heard me talk about Circle K a bunch. You know how incredible the savings are. You know how incredible the peanut butter stuffed pretzels are. So get over to Circle K. Join that Inner Circle program for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details.
We love Circle K. Another staple of the Valley that we absolutely love is Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Guys, we talk about it all the time. If you just need a staycation, Gila River Resorts and Casinos is the absolute only place to do it at, because you can go hang out there, go hang out at the pools during the day, hit the live table games and slots at night, maybe go catch a game or a sporting event up at the BetMGM Sportsbook, which is the biggest sportsbook in the state of Arizona.
The best spot to watch any, UFC, any type of, anything you want to put some cheddar on. That's the best spot to watch it at.
That's, of course, at their Wild Horse Pass location, but they have other locations spread throughout the valley that you're going to want to make sure that you check out. We love our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I know the PHNX Cardinals guys just took a little staycation themselves with their families. They even took the newborn baby Brock as well, and they had a great time. They went to the Shula Steakhouse. They had an unbelievable meal there. They got in their rooms. It was spacious. They loved it. They had a great time, even with their families. I know I preach like leave the kids at home, and you can do that too. But they went with their small children, and they still had a blast. If you need a staycation, just head on over to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check out one of their locations in the valley, and you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Should we put our record predictions on wax so that at the end of the year people can either praise us as being wise oracles or flame us for being big dumb idiots? Damon, would you like to preface your predictions with anything before we get into it?
No, I just show mercy. Because last year I would have been more on the right side than more U of A fans. I think I would have predicted something like 8-4, 7-5, which felt low compared to the lofty goals and expectations of the 2024 season. But obviously 4-8 ended up being the record. I think this season is going to be a lot more in the middle. Like I don't think that obviously I don't think there's much room for a 10-win season necessarily. I just don't think that's realistic. I also don't think that this team is going to be putrid, and I don't see it getting worse than it did last season at all. So, I don't know that we're going to look like big dumb idiots. I don't know that it's really that possible this season. You know what I mean? It's like it's way more like we're going to be a game or two kind of off, I think. But, last season could have been nasty if we did something like this.
To your point, last season, the general fan consensus was very far off. Well, that might be an understatement of like the decade, but it was pretty far away from what the actual result was. And before we do get into me and Damon's individual predictions, I did rip this from Justin Spears' Twitter. He did a poll that said how many wins for Arizona football this season. 71.6% say 5-7. You see that little check mark? Might be a little bit of a spoiler for mine predictions earlier. But 0-4 wins. Yikes. 15.8%. 9.6% believe that Arizona is going to win 8 to 11 games. And then 12 plus, we got our Delulu fans going 3%. Who, you can't tell them they're wrong. They haven't played a game yet, so you can't tell them they're wrong. But I think I just wanted to bring that up to get a vibe for where the general fan consensus is. And we know Spears has a bunch of motion, so I think that is a good barometer for what the general fan is feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think most people are, though. I would like to see a little bit more, and maybe we run our own poll as well. Like, I think, where do people stand on 5-7, 6-6, 7-5? Because I really do. That's what I'm saying. Like, I really think that's the conversation. That's the meat of what we're talking about here, and that's why I say that I think we're going to be wrong by a game, 2 games here or there, given our predictions, because it really is kind of, in my opinion, going to be right in the middle there. So. Why don't we head into it? I'll let you go first, Kevin. Why don't you do your, record prediction for Arizona football?
My official record predictions for Arizona football in 2025.
Blue is home games and red is away games. I did not make a key. I apologize.
Well, now you got the verbal key. We got verbal memes and you got verbal keys. Hawaii. I'm just going to go through these. Hawaii, they win that game, statement game. A lot of connections there. I think they are motivated for that one to make a statement. 1-0. To the Wildcats. Weber State, come on now. 2-0 to the Wildcats. K-State, I do have them picking up their first loss of the season against Kansas State. I do think that the performance in this game will tell us a lot about the level of this Arizona football team.
Totally with you there.
I think that, even if they do lose this game, I remember last year's game, there were moments where we felt like if they had capitalized, they could have come out on top somehow miraculously. But this year, even if they do pick up the loss, as I'm predicting, I do think that they will make a good showing for themselves. And they do go into Iowa State the next week and lose again, I predict there, falling to 2-2. So, you'll notice that I have some highs and lows for this team this season, but I'll get to that in a second. Oklahoma State, I think that's going to be a W, getting them back above 500 at 3-2. BYU, I think, is just going to be too motivated, too tough. They fall there to 3-3. Houston should be a W, 4-3. Colorado, honestly, Damon, kind of between the fan bases, almost like a bit of a budding dislike for one another there. I think that's going to be a good game.
I wouldn't even call it budding necessarily. We haven't liked Colorado fans for basketball reasons in the past,
true.
But football is become a little bit more heated recently just because of the Deion effect of things.
Yes, I think they win that game, motivated game, and they move on to 5-3. I think they lose to Jalen Daniels and Kansas 5-4. They beat Cincinnati to move to 6-4, and then I think that they unfortunately finished the year against two tough teams and with 2 losses, falling and finishing at 6-6.
Which is a bowl game, which gets you in, the LA Bowl, sponsored by Gronk.
And that'd be kind of sick. And also, cool. before we continue into our predictions, I want to say, I expect 3 things. That was 2. I expect 3 things from Arizona football this upcoming year. I expect it to look better, and by that I mean I want to be entertained.
Totally.
Right? I want them to be able to, because I think the way that we're predicting this season, there's going to be low points this season. There's going to be times where you doubt that this team can really put together a bowl performance. And I think that I want to see them fight through that adversity. Like I predicted, they lose those back-to-back games to start the, true season against K-State and Iowa State. But then I do expect them to battle back and show themselves at a very high level. So I expect them
some adjustments from a coaching standpoint.
Yes, entertain me, show me some adjustments, and I want to see Noah Fifita look damn confident this year.
Yeah.
Those are my 3 things that I really want to see from Arizona football, bar none, this year. And I think the rest of things will fall into place. I think defensively things will fall into place as those units get more gelled and more connected and more used to each other. Not expecting an all-time defense out of this roster, right? But just like we've talked about, expecting maybe slightly below average to maybe slightly above average in that range. And yeah, like I said, those are the 3 most important pivotal things for me. Entertainment, adjustments, and Noah Fifita looking like the damn man.
Yeah. I almost want to put the entertainment factor at put it at 0, put it at negative, put it as high as it can possibly go above everything else, because last season was just so demoralizing, man, and it was so just the worst product ever to watch. Anything but that. It was life-sucking. I would even take 4-8, but you lose close games every game, and you're not even close to making a bowl game necessarily. You're 2 games away, but my God, at least the games were fun to watch and they were interesting instead of quitting versus UCF essentially because the season's already over. Like last season was the single most brutal season I've ever had the displeasure of watching as an Arizona football fan, and that's saying a lot. And it was really that bad. And every year that we have expectations, it really feels like it ends like that. But this one was even worse to another level. So yeah, entertainment factor I think is huge. And why don't we get into my record prediction here? With that being said, we're pretty similar here, Kevin. Not too much changed. I do think that there are a couple things that you said that I wanted to touch on as well. But starting off, I think Arizona easily wins these first 2 games. Do you remember in February there was a conversation about whether Weber State was like a for sure win or not? There really was. I'm not even joking. That was like a genuine thing that people were talking about online, because I think that Weber State's offense in 2024 was pretty solid, and people were like, well, I don't see how we're going to put up that many points per game next season.
I am not trying to disrespect Weber State. I guess I am. This is kind of earlier off air when I told Damon, if I were to make fun of you, I would say this. And then I made fun of him. But I'm not trying to disrespect Weber State. But I think if your program is talking about potentially losing to Weber State in February,
it's bad.
I think that's a sign that things are really, really bad, man. I think things have changed, right?
I remember the vivid conversation of, so this is what I'm looking at right now. In 2024, Weber State averaged 28.33 points per game.
Wow.
if the 2024 Arizona Wildcats played them, can they put up that many? Say that they scored that many points against our Big Sky caliber defense that featured players playing out of position, injuries all over the place. Like if they put up 4 touchdowns, there's a 0% chance we would have matched 4 touchdowns. I'm telling you that right now. And so I remember that conversation of like, can we match these guys' point total? Thankfully now I think that conversation has gone to the past and we don't really have to worry about that as much anymore. But yeah, hashtag you saved me, Seth Doege. But
hashtag Seth saved us.
Yeah, he saved us. But yeah, I mean, I think that I'm glad we're past that. I think you go 2-0. Hopefully the Hawaii game doesn't look close. I think if you beat Hawaii by a lot, that tells me a lot about this team as well. As much as we talk about the Kansas State game. I know it's the first game of the season. Obviously, that's duh. But if you can beat Hawaii by a good 2-3 touchdown margin, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this team is maybe it really could be as decent as we think it could be. But moving on here,
real quick, Damon, before we do get into the rest of your predictions, let's hit our last ad break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast, and then we will get back into these final record predictions, putting it on wax on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere. You see it on Damon's head. My brother is looking stylish in his branded Bills Phoenix, repping the brand, repping the branded Bills. And you can get 15% off with code BBPHNX. So the most stylish, most comfortable, and most fashionable headwear in the game that is branded Bills. And not only is it good for just the everyday people like me and Damon, it's the best way to elevate your brand if you have a company that you are, working every day to elevate and get out there into the people's minds. Branded Bills is quickly cornering the hat market. So if you want your brand to be elevated, check out Branded Bills with their custom snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, tees. The whole lineup, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. Like I said earlier, it's the most comfortable piece of headwear I've ever put on to this gigantic cranium. And I hope that you at home would also like to partake in this deal. So, if you're a U of A fan, go get their U of A merch down at the U of A campus store and online. They also do partnerships with other colleges. We don't got to mention which colleges. And they also do partnerships with the Phoenix Suns. So make sure to check out this Arizona company, BBPHNX, for 15% off your first order of Branded Bills at brandedbills.com. Once again, use promo code BBPHNX.
Got my lovely Branded Bills hat on right now. We love Branded Bills. It is really, truly the most comfortable hat you could possibly own, and that's why I wear them as much as I do. Another thing that you guys are going to need to, finally make that big change in your life. We all know that flooring, when you walk into your home every day, and it just brings it down, right? Flooring can really tie everything together, and it's like it really is life changing for a home. Like if you have a great flooring that you love, you really walk into your house just happier every day.
Confidence, strut around.
Absolutely. And if you don't have flooring that you love right now, our friends at Empire Today do have flooring that you will love in the future. They have over hundreds of options of different styles, whether it's, carpet, tile, hardwood, you name it, man. They are the flooring experts and they have all of the options. This is not a big box store where you go there and maybe on aisle 22 they have flooring and you head down there and it's just some snot-nosed high schooler that is working a summer job. No, these are people that love flooring. They're experts in it, and they absolutely know how to guide you and find you flooring that you love. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when you use promo code of PHNX. A $350 discount with code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details.
And we are back.
Well, we have us here at 2-0 on our record prediction after our two easier non-conference games. And then, of course, our non-conference game against Kansas State, which is somehow also a conference game, which is, I'm not going to lie to you, Kevin. That's going to be fun to put that in our rearview mirror and never have to worry about that again. Never have to worry about the aspect of playing the most difficult conference opponent as a non-conference opponent game.
Amen, brother. Amen.
2 years in a row. Absolutely sucks. I mean, not that they were the most difficult last year, but they were ranked the highest at the time that we played them, actually outside of Utah, who then we beat the next game. And they ended up being a lot worse than they were supposed to be. But then you have a bye week, which is I think it's a good time to have a bye week. You're about to lead into conference play. You're about to play a really good Iowa State team on the road. I don't expect much in that game. I expect a loss, and I expect this team to be 2-2 after the break because have 2 games that they absolutely should win and 2 games that I think that no one really expects them to win.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I think you bring up a good point that I omitted in my record prediction is the importance of the location of that bye week, right? It definitely gives you a hard reset heading into that tough away game after a tough home non-conference air quotes game against K-State.
Yeah, and then here comes the meat of the schedule. Here, I said it to our guy Mo Paina on Twitter, Kevin. I think this Oklahoma State, BYU, Houston stretch, I think it's the whole season. I really, truly do. If Arizona can go 3-0 like I have here on this thing, I mean, I know that I have them finishing here 6-6, but that's just because on paper I don't find them to be as good as some of the teams that they play down the stretch. But if you're 5-2, that is genuinely changing for this team's season because they're not going to go into that Colorado game on the road thinking that they're going to lose that game. They're going to go into it thinking that they're going to win. It's confidence changing. And like I said, I know that I have them finishing 6-6 here, but you got to beat Oklahoma State. That's maybe the least talented team in this conference. You have to beat them. BYU, they don't have Jake Retzlaff anymore. I think that there's a big hole at quarterback, and I think it happened too late into the offseason for them to really get prepared for the season properly. And I think Arizona is going to take advantage of that truly at home against BYU. And then Houston, Connor Weigman, we talk about him all the time. We think he sucks. Other people think he's really good. Who knows, right? We're going to find out this season, but I think Arizona needs to probably beat Houston as well if they want to become bowl eligible. Kevin, what do you think about that 3-game stretch being the most important 3-game stretch, I think, on the schedule?
I want to expand on your point about how much it matters for the morale of the general program. I think it's not just important to this upcoming season and the morale of the team taking the gridiron I hate saying gridiron. It's so cliche. Taking the field this upcoming year. But taking the gridiron is the Arizona football Wildcats.
That's up your alley.
Yeah, but it's like too far down the alley, and the alley doesn't have it's not well lit when I get that far down. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't really want to go into the gridiron. But anyway, my point being is I think it's important for the program as a whole, like for recruiting, for Brent Brennan securing a 3rd year at Arizona. Like I think that being able to say that you've turned it around from where it was just less than a year ago to being 5-2 at any point this season, I think is truly impressive, right? And I think being able to say that if you're Brent Brennan when you are recruiting, being like, hey, I get it. Year 1, abysmal, did not go my way. I wear that. I don't want to wear it, but I wear it. But look what I've done this year. I recruited my ass off in the offseason, and now we're 5-2, and we've set ourselves up to go chasing for a bowl game. And I think that is what's truly important to me about like that 3-game stretch. If you've called it correctly, I think going 3-0 in that stretch, beating a big brand like BYU, right? I think you're right about the quarterback thing with Jake Retzlaff. You're right about the adversity that BYU is facing, and you're right that Arizona could take advantage of that. But when people look back on, these games, they just see, like we always say in MMA, they just see red or green stripes. Did you win or did you lose, right? And I think if you're able to beat a big brand like BYU, who people love to hype up and people love to talk about BYU right now, I think that is huge for the program as a whole, and it's like brand as a football program and recovering from last year's impact that the brand took. So yeah, I think that 3-game stretch, as you've laid it out, is incredibly important.
That would be the most monumental staple win of the Brennan era for sure. If they were able to beat BYU in that game, to start 4-2 before you go on the road to Houston, who you figure is probably going to be probably a year away from being a team that is to be reckoned with in this conference, because I do think Houston's future is good with Keyshawn Henderson and with Willie Fritz. I just don't know if it's this year with Connor Weigman. And like I said, I think if you can somehow find a way to go 3-0 in that stretch, I think you make a bowl game for sure. If you go 2-1, I think you put yourself in a pretty good spot to make a bowl game. I have them going 3-0, just for the sake of this exercise. Then I have them losing to Colorado the next week. That is also off of a bye week, Kevin. I think bears noting. so they get a chance at a little bit of extra time to prepare for Colorado. Got undressed by Colorado last year, and that coaching staff just embarrassed our coaching staff. I remember there was a little bit of hope going into that one. I don't think people thought that Arizona was going to win necessarily, but there was some hope like, hey, maybe we could keep this competitive.
It was
one
also
of the more
a lot
embarrassing losses we saw last season.
And to your point, like the fan hopium going into it, I think was a lot of like people just not liking Colorado and being like, no way that we're going to let them just walk in and beat us, right? This is Dion ball. We're not going to let that happen and then it happened. But yeah, it's kind of to your point. There was a little bit of hope.
Verbal meme of the day. I'm Garfield with the Garfield poster behind me with the crossed out picture. Because I have no idea what you're talking about, brother. You think I just thought that we had a chance against Colorado because I hate Colorado and wanted to beat them so bad?
You might have,
because that's
but
totally exactly what happened.
I was talking about more general fans, but I think I stumbled upon the ringleader here of that one. But yeah, I'll let you get back to your predictions, Damon.
There's worse things to be than the ringleader of our circus fan base. So I'll take that and wear it as a badge of pride. The Kansas game, I think, is also extremely pivotal. I think Arizona can win that game for sure, especially at home. Arizona can win that game. But will they? Another discussion. Kansas ended the year extremely strong last year. I think they're going to be better this year than they were last season. So yeah, I mean, I that's why I have a loss here, but I do think that that's definitely a winnable game. Then you get Braden Sorsby and Cincinnati on the road. Another game where I feel like you kind of have to win it if you want to make a bowl game, right?
Yeah.
That's another pivotal game. And I think the two road games that you got to circle are Houston and Cincinnati in particular, where you want to see good results. And even if it's not a win, I think it's got to be a competitive game, right? In order to feel good about what you have from a coaching staff perspective. And then these final two games, no one's going to expect anything out of Baylor and ASU. No one. Can you get a result out of one of those games? That would be huge. That would be. I already have it here as the BYU game, but I think if you could get Baylor and ASU one of those wins, that would be the staple win of the Brent Brennan era. I have us going 6-6 there, beating Cincinnati, losing to Baylor and ASU. It probably won't work out exactly on paper how me and you think it will, right? Like there's going to be a game where you lose where you think you're going to win, and a game where you win where you think you're going to lose. Like that's college football. But 6-6 for both me and Kevin. Only one game differentiator between the two of us. You have Colorado being a win. I have BYU being a win.
Yeah, one last look over. These are my record predictions. Ultimately 6-6, and then these are the dogs. Ultimately also 6-6. So I think we differed on the BYU game there as well. But Damon, we have some Arizona news and notes, and I think that puts us into overtime on today's AZ Wildcats podcast.
Excited for it, Kevin. First overtime on the week on a Monday. Nothing better than that.
You know us, man. We just love overtime. When all the chips are down on the table, that's when Damon and I compete our hardest. And I think we should start off overtime by, unless you had anything else about our record predictions, because we do have them going 6-6, and we are excited to see this season. I think, I will ask you this. I gave I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. I gave mine off the top of my head of like the three things that I think I need to see from Arizona football this upcoming year so that I can personally feel good about my program.
Yeah.
What do you need to see? Top three things next season to at least feel good about the year.
Yeah. I think, the entertainment factor, like I agreed with you. That is easily number one. Like show me competitive football games. Show me, a team that I want to tune into on Saturdays, right? Rather than something that is, a total dread to watch. On top of that, I think I want to see, was it injuries that derailed this defense last year, or are they just, not talented enough, right? Because I feel like last season, I kind of, in my heart of hearts, feel that the injuries were a huge factor as to why they fell off of a cliff so much. So yeah, I kind of will be looking into that. Like if they have better health, what does that look like for this defense? And then to add on to that, maybe just like a distinct style of play. I think from an offensive standpoint, what does Seth Doege want to do? Is it a very balanced offense? Is the run game not working? So we got to spread it out and, start going empty sets and start running a little bit more fast pace. spreading the field out. Like, I'm all for whatever, works, but find something that works. Find something that is better and show me. I think that's similar to what you said about the adjustments angle. Like, show me that what you can do is not the same all the time. So I think that those would be my three. Entertainment factor. What does this defense look like with better injury luck? And then also, a distinct style of play from an offensive standpoint.
Well, Damon, we have given our record predictions. We've given our expectations, what we need to see. I think we should move into some Arizona news and notes before we get on up out of here today. And I think we need to start with the video I was referencing earlier of, and I probably should have told you to do this earlier in the show, but Arizona women's basketball and Arizona football posted it on their social media if you would like to go watch it on mute. But it was pretty much, and I couldn't show it because of music, but it was pretty much just Nunu Watley and some of the football guys. Chris Hunter was there as well, kind of playing a little bit of basketball with the women's basketball team. The women's basketball team kind of doing a little bit of football drills with the football team. It was a fun little video to promote this here meet and greet for women's basketball that is actually tonight. This tweet's from a couple days ago, Monday, July 18th at 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. So if you're in Tucson, anywhere out by the Tucson Racket Club, this is your first chance to go meet the 2025 women's basketball team. And I think that, I'm not really here to talk a ton about the meet and greet, but I do think it's cool that we're talking about ways to up fan interaction in 2025-26. And I think like getting some of your teams to do crossover stuff is a great way to do that. It's just a fun little video that people are going to enjoy. And it gets Nunu Watley. Like, I learned a lot about Nunu Watley's personality just from watching this. Like, he is a funny guy, like lighthearted dude, and it's just a fun watch. So check out that video. Also check out that meet and greet if you're in the area. But Becky Burke is not just doing meet and greets, Damon. Becky Burke is also building like she always does. And it starts in 2026 as well because Priyanka Ponam has verbally committed to the University of Arizona for the class of 2026. It is Becky Burke's first verbal commit in the class of 2026 since taking over at the University of Arizona. Technically, this is the second verbal commit in the class of 2026. Somto Okafor, I believe a Spanish guard, technically also committed, but that was under the Adia Barnes staff, so it's yet to be seen as to whether or not that player goes to SMU, finds home elsewhere, goes to Arizona, whatnot.
Yeah.
But Priyanka Ponam seems to be the 6'2" forward that Becky Burke has chosen to start her 2026 class with. Back in Becky Burke's home recruiting range of Upper East Coast, Ponam comes from New Jersey in this case. I was reading, AZ Desert Swarm's article on this, and it's interesting. Like Ponam's rating has like been super up and down like over the course of her time. I think it's partially illustrative of like the hit or miss high school women's basketball recruiting credibility that some of these outlets have, right? The lack of depth of some of these classes, you know what I mean?
It's newer, yes, for sure.
Yes.
Like On3 and 247 haven't started doing it until very, very recently.
Yes, but it does seem like whether, regardless of where you see her rating as, if she's a low 4-star, high 3-star, whatever it is, I got this quote from the AZ Desert Swarm article I was talking about, I think written by Kim Doss. But it says, in the fall of 2024, Chris Hansen wrote on the Prospect Nation website that Ponam is a combo forward that we've seen impact the game, both scoring and passing, when she's working out of the high post with her mid-range touch and ability to find cutters are on display as well. She's comfortable hitting the trail three, as well as showcasing her footwork in the post. So, honestly, a very encouraging verbal commit. Even if it's not the most highly notable player, it seems like a skilled big that can really do a lot on the basketball court for you. So exciting stuff out of Becky Burke camp.
Certainly is. And it feels like Arizona women's basketball just capitalizing on the momentum that it's already building. And I love it. I love it. I don't expect Becky Burke to necessarily bring in maybe the Adia Barnes style classes that were being brought in, because I don't know if Arizona has the money that it did when it was kind of just allowing Adia Barnes to kind of spend willy-nilly. And you could also argue that was very earned given where she brought the program from, where she took it, where she got it and took it to a national championship game. So Dave Hickey was kind of just like, do what you need to do.
It takes money to get there, so spend your money.
We'll work on it later. And Dave Hickey has a reputation of doing that kind of as an athletic director, but especially did it with women's basketball. that'll affect Becky Burke's ability to bring in like the blue chippers. But I do think that Becky Burke is going to continue to have. We talk about the identity with football, have an identity for this basketball program and exactly what she wants it to look like. And that starts here with Priyanka Ponam. So yeah, good job from Arizona women's basketball. Regarding the meet and greet, I gotta say though, can we push it back a little bit? I'm like, I know me and you, we live up here. It doesn't really affect us, but 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I see Erica, she says Erica would be there, but
how do you even make that face in real life?
But I don't know what she is, referencing. Like maybe it just doesn't work with her schedule or whatnot.
Probably,
maybe it wouldn't work anyways. But
Mercury tonight at 5:30.
Mercury at 5:30.
Check it out. I'll be there. Erica will be there. Steve
Most people get off of work at 5.
Yeah.
So how are you going to start the event at 5? Let's push it back 1 hour. Won't be that big of a deal. We'll go 6 to 7:30 instead of 5 to 6:30, and way more people will be able to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a little tip from Damon there.
I love to hear that. Damon Dog doing all the promoting. And then before we get out of here, speaking of you, Damon, you were in Chicago.
I was.
The question that I had, that some people in our chat had, that I don't know, I think everybody in the office is asking Damon, 1, how was your vacation? But also 2, what is the PTO setup you got with Espo that allows you to take so many vacations? And how can the people in our chat get such a relationship with their job?
Mm-hmm. Interesting question, Kevin. Thank you for bringing that to my table. I'd love to. We what we should do? Look back in time and we should compare vacation days this summer, because I really do think it'd be fairly close.
It really would. I
think I took the longest vacation when I went to Hawaii, just from a standpoint of missing podcasts. But your Atlanta trip was close to that.
Yeah.
And then your other trip, your LA trip, was probably third.
Probably.
If we're going, if we're putting all of ours up there, I was only in Chicago for 3 days.
Correct.
I will say.
Correct.
Missed 2 podcasts. Sorry, I apologize. I missed you guys. I missed all of my closest friends here. In the chat. You know how we do it here on the Easy Wildcats podcast, blood brothers and sisters. But that being said, Chicago was awesome, man. It was really cool. I've never been before, kind of my first time really there. Tons of history, but kind of a more modern history than a lot of big mega cities. Really wasn't a huge city until the turn of the 20th century, which is pretty wild to think about. The fact that in 1900 it was really, that's when it started booming. And yeah, it was awesome, man. Super diverse, tons of great food, just a cool place. You could feel I went to the White Sox Cubs game at the White Sox stadium, and it just felt so you just felt so in the city. It was just kind of just you're grimy in there with the people in the 500 section, getting a Chicago dog and a beer, man. Nothing like it. It was great, man. I enjoyed it a lot, and it was a cool city. Anybody that hasn't really spent any time there, I really encourage it.
Chicago is dope. Shout out to all our Arizona Wildcats out there in Chicago right now. Yeah, I've been to Chicago once or twice.
Mr. Worldwide here.
Indeed. I mean, Mr. North America, continental United States.
It's an hour and a half away from where you're from.
Mr. Continental United States.
Mr. Tucson to Phoenix, basically, range. How far is it from St. Louis?
Drive? I actually don't know off the top of my head, to be honest. I took the train when I would go, because
it makes way more sense.
Yeah, St. Louis to Chicago drive. This is great podcasting.
You don't want to drive in Chicago.
No, it is 4.5 hours.
Wow, that's further than I thought it would be. But I will say, it's I did learn a little bit of what's up, Water Wanderlust.
Shout out.
Watching from Chicago currently, my man.
Windy City Wanderlust.
Tons of Arizona connections out there. I was talking to Ayrton, who actually is from the Chicago area, and he's our PHNX Suns producer. He was telling me, or I told him that when I went out there, every single person that asked us, where are you guys from? We'd say Arizona, and every single person would go, oh, I lived there for 3 years, or, oh, I have, family that lives there. Oh, my grandparents live there. There's so many Chicago to Arizona connections, and, we see that within our university as well. But yeah, awesome place, man. Awesome place. That's the homeland.
Yeah,
my family's from.
When I moved out here to go to U of A, all those years ago, many eon ago, I was shocked by how many Midwesterners, but specifically Chicagoans and St. Louisans were there. I was like, oh, this is like my people. We're here, right? You know what I mean? And yeah, I know we have people from like Water Wanderlust. I know we have other Chicago, residents in the chat here every once in a while. So it's just cool. It's just cool to see the overlapping U of A connections across the country.
Speaking of, I will say this. I was at the White Sox-Cubs game. Guy walking up the concourse with an ASU shirt, 1-0 ASU. Then walking down the street, kind of in the River North area, U of A shirt. Younger guy. Looked way cooler than the lame dad that was
a little more
ASU
hip
shirt. Yeah.
With the times.
1-1. Then I saw same area, another ASU shirt, 2-1 ASU, and we were down and out. We thought it was over. And I'm sitting there with my U of A football duffel bag that they gave me when I worked for the team at the airport, eating my McD's, no free ads. And as I'm sitting there, random guy walks up to me in O'Hare and just says, "Bear down, Arizona." And
Love it.
Buzzer beater, 2-2. We're going to OT next time we go back to Chicago.
That's a triple bang.
Yeah, it was a triple bang. But I will say before we end the show, Kevin, real quick, I did learn a little bit of Chicago, St. Louis lore.
Okay, lay it on me.
And our tour guide, I took a architecture boat tour, and he was like, "No one here from St. Louis, right? We got no St. Louis people here." And I was like, "Oh God, I wish my guy Kevin Thomas was with me in this moment." But apparently, in Chicago, they were, the river used to just be a total dump. They would just throw it was like the biggest like meat packing plant in any city in the world. They would just throw all the animal parts and everything in there, and it was just nasty, gross river. It debilitated the lake. Like, it was disgusting. Then people were like, "Oh, we don't want to do that anymore." So they diverted the Chicago River to the Mississippi River so that it started flowing down the Mississippi. So then all of the gross, nasty stuff that they were putting in their own river, they changed it and diverted it. So it started going straight down to Missouri, straight to St. Louis. And then Missouri took them to like Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that they could not prove that the water was more dirty after the change than it was before. So Chicago got to just completely just send all of their disgusting water down to St. Louis, and St. Louis just had to deal with it.
You learn something new every day here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. And I will say, like, the Mississippi River, if you've ever gone down to the banks of it, is not the prettiest water you'll ever see in your life. And I think
St. Ellis, bro.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one.
That Supreme Court ruling feels completely disgusting and unjustified. Just
the fact that they pretty much said, like, your water was so filthy before that we can't even tell where this filth is coming from.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed. We can talk about this later.
We'll talk about it later off air, Kevin. But that was going to do it today for the AZ Wildcats podcast. Appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. It was a really fun discussion talking about we send our poop water down the river, and that's what they make the Budweiser out of. That's from our guy Grayson Lee here in the chat. Electric stuff, man. Electric stuff.
Damn. My city just taking shots.
Yeah.
We got to get out of here.
I mean, they definitely have a different beer of choice than that in the Chicago area.
What is there? Well, no free. We can talk about this later. No free ads.
Particular Wisconsin.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But that's going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Appreciate you guys taking a trip down memory lane with me down in my Chicago trip. Had a lot of fun there.
History.
Good to be back. Good to be talking some football, and excited for this football season to start, Kevin. We are fired up, and we are ready to go down to Tucson tomorrow to talk to these players and coaches. So make sure that you guys tune in for that. We're gonna be doing a little bit of a later show tomorrow. What was the plan?
We're doing an early show tomorrow.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Early show tomorrow, going to media day, recording all the things, and then breaking it down on Wednesday.
So make sure you guys stay tuned for that.
Special guest on Friday.
Special guest on Friday. We'll be doing our I'm sure, tomorrow's show will be at our normal showtime hour. So
yes.
Everybody be here at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and we'll be breaking it all down on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Happy birthday, Noah.
We all silly like the mayor.